So thank you everyone for coming out tonight. It's a little bit chilly here in Elizabethtown. I hope everybody's staying warm in other parts of the country. My name's Mick Kennedy, publisher of the Heartland Review Press here at ECTC. And I'm really excited about tonight's reading because, and I don't know why I hadn't thought about it before, but I think it's important for people to visually interact with those people that we've published. And one of the wonderful things about technology is we don't have to travel far to be able to interact with some really talented folks like the person we're going to hear from tonight, Mr. Kevin Oberlin, who is our 2021 Chapbook Prize Contest winner, Steamboat Alley, which I've just updated our website on so we can begin to take orders on those books. I know that those it's been posted on Amazon, and Kevin, I know your copies are on their way. I think I sent you an email a couple days ago about that. But we're just so excited, and we've got a really good group here tonight. We usually don't have this many people. So everybody, please sit back for a wonderful reading tonight. And please remember to mute your mics so that we don't disturb the wonderful things we're going to hear. Thanks for being here, Kevin. Take over.
All right. Thanks, Mick. Somebody pipe the sound gets too bad you can't hear me. Don said there might be a little bit of a delay with the sound. I apologize for that. Thank you, Mick, for the introduction, for working on this book. Thank you, Ted, as well. Thank you guys for being here to hear me read some of it. I'm going to read mostly from the chapbook poems, Steamboat Alley. I'm going to start with the title poem, which is probably the longest thing that I'll read tonight. So the poem is called Steamboat Alley. It's kind of a part Cincinnati poem, sort of inspired by the wonderful blog Cincinnati Curiosities by Greg Hand, sort of inspired by my kids, and a little bit of Alice in Wonderland thrown in there in the mix as well. So Steamboat Alley. 1. Blueberries, blackberries, the rubbery fuzz of the lychees way back in the fridge, and Steamboat Alley's wiry fingers spread open, reaching up. Not enough to fill the dredged canal of his throat, not enough dark coal. He drawled down the middle of the river, the water's feathered V an arrow around him. Spicy pickles, please. Close the door, Steamboat, you're letting out all of the cold. He dawdles. He thinks about how honey comes from hives, but strawberries give him hives. A rubble of bumps around the mouth like stings. The moon lady calls them fish kisses, scoops scallops of ice into a rag, wraps in lemon balm, and presses. It gets worse. Blueberries, raspberries, pecans. The moon lady bumps the wicker chairs on their backs, a 5-pointed star beneath the gazebo. The mosquitoes come out. 2. Plates, the cutlery, elbows, decorum, etiquette. 2 coins the same size. Steamboat Alley skips over the stiles, delighted by his mother's arrangement. He orders a pirate hot dog, a tent, biscuits, and tea. We're having ghosts for dinner. A coriander chicken pie. The sycamores pick up their leaves and whistle along the river. Steamboat Alley runs parallel, paved over. At one time, carriages pulled up through here to unload passengers boarding the boats. Sometimes Steamboat heads toward the river, sometimes away. The moon lady cuts a switch, strips it, and hollers at the kettle. The kitchen is immaculately clean. The rose emerald wallpaper faded with bleach, the milky white haze of cataracts. The ghosts begin writing the chairs, one at a time. 3. Mustard potato salad, apple slaw, sweet potato fries. We used to call it German, remarks the captain, who brought mango bratwurst, potluck. The ghosts are delighted, demand silence, but cannot serve themselves, spoons inert in their original places. Between courses, the moon lady scrapes their portions back into serving bowls and hones cutlery. Later, she figurate the chickens. The captain unfolds a napkin and wipes the grease from his hands. He polishes his lucite buttons. The sun will set in the northeast tonight. Steamboat wipes his cheeks, and they flare. He's torn his eyes into thirds and built a castle, complete with murder holes. Salt, china, textiles, general goods. Instead of automobiles, the captain's packed his garage with manifests, an archive, steamer trunks, a fire hazard. 4. The moon pale wine, motionless in coops, is nearly blue in the ghost light. Steamboat Alley sweeps the deck to prepare for the next act, the moon lady dessert. A 300-page scrapbook of ingredients and receipts, handwritten pencil in narrow loops, recipe card unglued and retaped, a cleared table draped in tatting, a cake. Caramel iced in buttercream diamonds dusted with cocoa, 5 tears on a fluted spindle. The captain can't bear the confection's gaze and wanders off to inspect for bowls. The ghosts embrace. With some effort, they shiver. Steamboat Alley supplies Metzenbaums, a retractor, a knife and quiver. He returns to the kitchen for plates. The moon lady cradles a baby chick in her hands, satiated, self-indulged, the breezes of filial, but cool. 5. The captain fills a match from a book, fingers burning with age, or maybe the chill of evening. He lights the candelabra, brushes away revealed crumbs of cake, and scatters them in the yard. Steamboat Alley is playing a game with lettered tiles in a can. He shakes them up and orders them. They make him think of rattlesnakes, but they strike the metal rib like an automobile. At a lull in the conversation, he suddenly points, his yellow sleeve catching the candlelight. The river is that way. The moon lady arrives with neck plumerie and honey mead served on emerald green plates, and the ghosts sing a Bach chorale with lyrics of their own concerning Epicurean delight. 6. Blueberries, watermelon, pomegranate. The stain on Steamboat Alley fades with the delicate curtain the moon lady draws across his window, water tinted with orange. The captain is coughing or laughing with a ghost dancing in the sycamore trees. Can I have one oatmeal? He inquires, although his eyes are closed. The kitchen is closed. He pulls his fresh octopus closer, weaves his arm among its tentacles. The kitchen is closed. It's a time for dreams, for adhesives and machines, for sleep. Once upon a time, there was a robot king who cooked the universe into a pie. When the queen put in her fork, what do you think came out? Why, all of her colors. The moon lady sleeps. She dreams of hot dogs and tea. Thanks for indulging me in a longer poem there. Most of the rest of these will be shorter, I promise. Thanks. Next poem, like many in this chapbook, are about starting a family and the anxieties surrounding that, and with thinking about and worrying about and trying to have children. And I wrote this poem after my son Rowan was born, but before my daughter Millie was born, right in between there. So this one is for my family, for Rowan and Millie, and for my wife Mariah. This is called The Daughter I Never Had. Presses her feet to the small of my back as I'm trying to sleep. Honey, just scoot up. The fan oscillates. Its alpine exhale in the cold of January jerks me awake. The white north, in lieu of blankets of frost, mumbles me up a moment. Rows of necklaces strung along the shade of the bedside lamp, a veil of beads and a gleam of porch lights, always illuminated. I don't decide to buy these baubles. They appear in my hands unbidden. The sheepskin rug draped over the winged back of the reading chair, perfect for naps, if not for the dog, who, since no competition, claimed it. Children are not so easy as I once imagined. It took the better part of a year to conceive our son, and now we're not certain we can bear again the doubts, my wife's that we can sustain the damage, the window plastic skin, the trick hip, the hemorrhage birth. Mine, daughter, already named, won't choose us and justify our depression, expense, self-loathing, how crippled we feel, and how avaricious. Our son babbles, frustrated he can't interpret his orders. Has he heard her murmuring heart? She catalogued herbs beneath her breath to recall the hydrophilic, to follow the water, misty-legged and mewling. I feel her slim frame, sleep poached, sidle up on the couch. Daddy, why are we doing this? Confetti of naked limbs confused in the scramble, static, a sigh, thighs, an actor I recognize but can't place. I'm not sure. It was on when I got here. What do you want from me? Invasive starlings mob a goshawk. She's gone. This one is called, this one is moving a little bit out there again. It's sort of inspired by too many years of watching uh, spooky pop cultural stuff like Supernatural and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and my thinking about just kind of how those type of shows portray um, acts of desperation. Um, and that sort of kind of tied into the themes I was thinking about and thinking about um, um, this idea of having children and the anxiety that goes with it and the stress that goes with it. This is called Prayer for the Devil to Restore Our Child. I kick the mess of dirt and gravel to cover the hole we dug, raise a puff of red the wind casts away, a discarded veil. A cigar box buried with photos, a lock of hair, some chicken bones and powder, black, purportedly goofer dust, a ticket from the county fair. We have it on negligible authority. The devil desires these tributes, the given faith and the patience to wait for days if need be. Here the spell may work. You tuck your braided hair up into a ball, gaze down Eastern Road, your back to me as it seems it's been throughout our travels. Drinking the bitter lagers of towny bars, often without towns, the roadsides depressed in apocalyptic splendor. The caved-in roofs of double wides, the packs of dogs that appall the civilized suburbs back home. The gas stations, few and far, found our gate stairs risible. It's never been otherwise here. The registers work, the cokes are cold, and what are you doing in these parts? Kind of welcome, we supposed, and so grew cautious and polite. You gave up changing clothes a while back, the same pair of jeans mile after mile, and I gave up trying to explain what we're about. To call on the devil, to devote to superstition our ties, is necessary to say that we've tried everything. A white barn, a water tower with rusting legs, a copse of trees, people our gray horizon, and bear witness. You held me while I wept. For the home we lost to hospital bills, for the kids we'd never raise, for the lightning strikes that lit our dreams with static. I remember the touch, as clear as the slick tape I used to seal our casket for ritual grieving. My thumbs smoothed surface to dance surface, and I prayed it would never open again, that demon come, you'd turn, entwine your arms through mine, my waist in the cups of your hands, and my sandpaper cheeks clearing your tears as you pushed the bundle of shadow from my hands. Let it break on the hardened ground and dump its entrails in full view of those who might read our past and future mingled with tire tracks. Some of their own, the skins of one's lives woven together for a purpose, to call upon whoever waits where the roads meet. Give us the child we murdered in sleep. Give us the guitar we picked into wealth. Give us the bullet bat that put our mother in jail, that spurned the girl, that robbed the bank when we should have been CEO. And give us the pickup truck that will take us home. I'm going to divert for a minute to something completely different, take a break from all of that depressing stuff for equally weird, possibly boring stuff. I want to read an excerpt from, thanks Clay, an excerpt from something that I wrote over this past summer. A longish poem that I turned in with my most recent promotion file. My department asks for a statement of teaching philosophy along with everything else that they review. And I wrote a poem. I'm assuming that I'll still have a job in the fall. I'm optimistic about that. But this is an excerpt from that. And so it talks about teaching. It doesn't have a proper title yet. And the references through here are scattered out. I'm not going to delineate all of them. They're boring. But everything from educational theorists like John Dewey to the Muppets. So it's all kind of bundled into this kind of a philosophy. This is from towards the end of the poem, from a section titled "Climb Up Their Shore," and one of the many epigraphs that I use in the poem. I'll put in for this, even though it doesn't, it wasn't originally with this part, because it feels like it jumped with it tonight for some reason. This is a quote from the TV show Firefly, where the captain says, "Well, my days of not taking you seriously are certainly coming to a middle." Around the workshop table of new writers, everyone's murdered. The words almost don't matter. Look at the shape of the thing before we tackle uprooting stumps. Sorry, Hemingway. Apologies, Arnold. We are not yet describers. Add to the dollar jar, discourse, genre, rhetorical situation, please. Even the research has to look different, because we're asking not what art reveals, but what it inspires. This changes where we look, what we look for, and what we look through. In literature, follow the footnotes. Why not? If you've never heard of Derek Walcott, start with Wikipedia. I'm not kidding. Go. If I could give Hill the joy of a book pulled from a shelf, reading its references back to a stack that hasn't been visited yet in your lifetime, and crafting that eureka into a poem, I would not do it. But you should at least look, my storytellers. At least listen to the conversations of others and write them down, you clandestine spies. My head's twist, my neck's to a braid as I send the essayists back to the library online. Schlockerly verses only, now's the time. This is the level of discourse you need to see what you're up against, to see what you'll one day do, to see the dams and peer them or pierce them as you will. Why should we tremble beneath the flag of either resistance or liberation? My students want both and neither, wandering the ranks. Even their prayers are conceived with reference to execution in a product that is perceptible and hence belongs to the common world. But whether or not they're clipped from the breeze by God's scissors depends on something different every time. On liturgy, cadence, or what the words provoke when blasted against the boards of our ears. If I say with one mouth, I teach writing, I may as well hand you a book of petitions. Art is Mad Libs, a practical lie. The smoke of thought above the coal plant has deceived you. It's shut down. It was water vapor, those cloud makers, and the dark sky is now an old war. A man in a suit stands on the bridge, his back to the Ohio River, and says there are some folks who will do just fine with a vocational degree. That he means no respect, but jobs, 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 possums, all the way down. Poaching students improves the bottom line, so rob Ratty to pay Toad. Applause. Gonzo's eyes flare as he stares in the bell of his trumpet and shakes his head. Now I know where we are. For a time, we promised a larger view of the world, areas of knowledge otherwise left unengaged. Think critically, contribute wisely to society. I'm not saying jump off that bridge, just that we'd catch you, man, if you did, because we're still fishing. In my class, compassion and empathy and breath. In my class, liberal arts aren't dirty words by default. The little death of literature in a back room, stripped then snuffed by committee, a cynical crime to minimize the risk of feeling, a fatal flaw in any machine. Tell me how to earn. I haven't forgotten what happened then. The war on higher ed isn't out there. It's right here. I shudder and saw a pockmarked blade amid the debate. Who owns the river? The hierarchy among the disciplines demands we distinguish ourselves or die by assimilation. But there's the larger war, and beyond other, and beyond no war. Who owns the river? Our students do. Or nobody does. Of course, no one. I'm going to read 2 more poems, if that's all right. This I wanted to read. I wasn't planning on reading this one, but I had it open on the computer just in case. I think my sister is watching, and so I had to read this one because it makes a reference to Billy Joel, and and some of it might sound familiar from childhood. The poem is called Rocket Ship. The fountain of white fire, ignited fuel, jellyfish smoke, curlicue descent of a booster fizzling away, a bottle rocket. After 1986, what could be new? Changed. My arms noodle over the white railing of my aunt's loft. I'm 10 years old, so any apartment feels cosmopolitan to me, even in North Michigan. It's summer, and I haven't heard of Ollie North or how to forgive him. My teachers spent the last months of school trying to think of something to say because a spaceship exploded, and everyone on board died, including the teacher. We were all going to be teachers. We were all going into space. I'm listening to Billy Joel's new cassette in the Walkman I got for my birthday, a brand I've never heard of, Samsung. It murdered batteries. There's a rat race, a demolished hotel, a silence on the verge of a Hammond. He expects to believe he has a kitchen table, drinks coffee, reads the paper, at least in the song. My aunt's car has a voice chip. It can tell you your door is open. I'm singing along. I'm singing along. And the last poem I'd like to read is the last poem from the chapbook. So we're back to in here. This is one of the very few ekphrasis poems I've written. A few of us, many of us locally, wrote poems in response to the art of a local artist here in Cincinnati who passed away a few years ago, Merle Rosen. And in the painting by Merle Rosen that this is about, I mean, I can do it justice by describing it. Just so you have a general idea, it's the kind of almost cartoonish sketch of a bird on roller skates. Very bright, very colorful, very cheerful colors. But I got a sense of, at the same time, this cheerfulness from it, a sense of kind of panic. Papa Duck. 5. In the aftermath of fire, the ears of sugar beets fidget in windswept rows to catch the siren's wail as the hook and ladder passes up car after car, a brick hurtling as if frictionless. There's no resistance between cries for help. Across the fields and far away we roll, sometimes disaster chasers, sometimes heralds of crisply separating skies, our unmarked exit strategy, the fields iced over. 4. Papa Duck called, quack, quack, quack. 3. When only little ducks come back, we worry. That's what we do. Faces without heads or noses, responsible guardians, femurs and fibulas gnawed clean, our cemetery's pickets betray our backwards thinking. The wolf who cries boy patrols the border, his orders up again in that chicken mashed flat from sky, we've heard of him. But 3 establishes the pattern, the dot hitched to the dot dot, the yada to yada yada. Mother cocked her head, muddy brown, a dirt-black eye difficult to pick out in the dry grass at the creek's edge. But her accusations clear enough. They follow me just fine. Whoever coined the phrase, ducks in a row, clearly hadn't met you, you goose. I put on my hat and skates. It's all that can be done. The sweet smoke of a barbecue, the black and steeple, the raccoon poking its finger in a soda can. The mammals. 2. Papa Duck went out one day, wearing his cap and roller skates. Papa Duck called, quack, 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 and felt he'd stepped into a commercial for accident insurance. There were other jokes to be made here, he was sure of it. About canaries, about the call of the pastoral, about wetlands bulldozed for farms raised and paved for traffic. Why don't ducks Twitter? They're just quackers. 1. Ladybug, fly away home. Your house is on fire, your children alone. And what of the boy who looks after the sheep? He's under the haystack. Papa Duck weeps. Papa Duck blanches. Papa Duck hurtles, brick-like, straddles whole fields as they thaw. Papa Duck's fury stokes the sun. His quacks panic ambulances. Rumble strips and gravel trip him into flight, a leap over miles of orange and white barrels, haystacks and history, state lines, police lines, a crime scene eclipsed in the gray drizzle. Papa Duck, a sheet of cloud above his precious strays. Somewhere, mid-flight, the seat belt light pings on in the avian brain, as it must have done for Chicken Little, as it always did for the Roadrunner. What if they're less precious than prodigal, less deaf than dumb? 0. When Papa dreams, all of his little ducks come back, at least for a brief nuzzling of bills, at least for holidays. Thanks everyone for listening.
Really, really nice. Really nice. Does anyone have any questions for Kevin? Well, I had one, and you may have answered this in the introduction to the poem. The last one, Papa Duck, where we start off with a particular number for the first stanza, and then it's like a countdown where we're usually looking at 1, 2, like a progression of numbers. This one seemed to be kind of a countdown, and I was just wondering what inspired you to take that approach to that particular poem.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Nick. Yeah, that's so. Like I said, part of the poem was in response to this piece of art, but then the other kind of like main thread that I was weaving with it is this like nursery rhyme, nursery song. I don't know. Sometimes Papa Duck, sometimes it's Mama Duck, but it's a song where the ducks out one day. over the hills far away, and then the duck calls quack, 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 and then 4 ducks come back. And then they go out again, and then only 3 ducks come back. And they go out again, and then only 2 ducks come back. And so it's kind of like a counting down song. And then, of course, at the end of the song, they go out looking for the ducks, and all of the ducks come back. Because, I mean, it's a nursery song, right? It's a happy song, a happy ending. But that's kind of where I got the initial idea of the countdown from. But then for me, it was, being a little bit cynical and combining it with like panic that I was feeling from this art piece. That countdown kind of played into that in a very different way for me because it felt like, I mean, it felt like a thing that happens. It's a countdown to something about to happen, and that panic-inducing for me. And so I thought it was an interesting, frame poem to try to add to that feeling of panic by having it count down instead of up, the feeling that's coming to stop, maybe not in a good way, that it's it's not necessarily going to, like a poem like Steamboat Alley, where the sections are traditionally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. You feel with the numbers growing, that kind of complexity and development and growth, and it feels very comfortable. And this poem, just subject of it felt very uncomfortable and moving to me. So the countdown for that for me was part of that, just that building anxiety and anticipation of this parent, this duck, whose children are all disappearing for reasons unknown, and what really happens at the end of that? Do they really come back? Do our children come back to us? Will they after they are grown? Hi, Mom and Dad. I mean, a little bit, yeah. So thanks, Clay. A group of us. So there were. I can't remember. I don't think Rhonda's here tonight. But somewhere between about probably around a dozen, 15 of us or so responded to this call, reading these artworks and writing these responses to them. And then we all got together and gave a reading, and it was a very interesting experience because we all wrote these poems with the artwork in mind, but then also very aware of why we were being asked to do this, that this was a celebration of this artist's work after they had passed. And at the reading for these, it was a wonderful reading. It was very lively, very, very just energizing because of the artist's art, because of Merle Rosen's artwork, for one thing. But then the poets who responded to it were also, kind of feeding off of the energy that she had in her art. But that was a reading that was also part memorial. Like of Merle's friends were there, some family members were there, and we're reading these poems, and we're really jazzed about it, into it. And some people are very excited, and but some people were crying, mourning this artist, and so that's definitely. That's definitely woven in there well. Not as consciously as the other components for me, but I think that became increasingly real in that experience of reading the poem out loud to that community.
Angela had a question.
I'm sorry. Kevin, who cut your hair?
I didn't quite hear you.
Angela, did you have a question? Did we lose you?
It looks like her signal is out right now. I think she's reconnecting, maybe.
Thanks, Clay. Does anyone else have a question? Maybe Angela can get back with us here in a minute.
I don't have a question. I just tried to write on the chat, but it didn't work. I really enjoyed this. I appreciate his enthusiasm. You can tell it by his reading and by the words in the poems. And I really like the cadence of the language. It's beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, I don't know if Angela will be back or not. But we'll go ahead and close it up tonight if no one has any further questions. We did record this event tonight, so we will be posting that on the Heartland Review Press Facebook page, so that we can enjoy it again and again. And if you have other questions for Kevin, if you don't have his email, I can certainly provide you with that, or he can. But it was a really wonderful reading, and it's, as we all know, poetry is supposed to be a spoken. We're supposed to hear the words, and when we hear the reading, and the way that the reading is handled, it just makes so much more to the poems. It brings so much more to the poems. And Kevin, you just did a magnificent job, and thank you everybody for coming out tonight. And I will send out an email to Kevin so he can contact people when it's posted on Facebook. And if there's nothing else, we'll call it a night. Thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you so much, Nick. Thank you, everybody.